We want to make Sokuzan's teachings available to all who would benefit from hearing the Dharma from his perspective. You may relate to this if you are returning to these talks time and again and find value in them. Consider supporting us financially and participating with questions during Dharma talks and at book studies. Thank you.
Good morning, good afternoon, and all the other good things you could say. Thank you for attending this Sunday Dharma talk that has been happening here for quite a long time. I don't know how long, but a while. So I'll talk for a few minutes and then please respond with questions if you have them, and I'll do my best to consider them and see if I can help you with what those inquiries are. This particular topic is one that's been floating around quite a bit, but some difficulty trying to understand how to speak about it in a way that it's going to not lead you into further difficulty with your ego mind, your self-centered mind, your protective mind that keeps you from seeing what this is. Very convincing. The title of it is Unconscious Ego Protections. Is that it? Unconscious, thought of several different directions for that, about what words to use, but to actually title it in such a way that I can address the ways in which, very subtle ways, these are very, very subtle, feather-thin ways that we protect the ego. You might need someone to point those out to you. And you may not. So these can show up in terms of language, in terms of kind of protection I call phrase fillers. Like you'll say a sentence, and then instead of allowing the spaciousness, which is very threatening to ego, to just show up, instead you'll, to the person you're be talking to, you'll say, right? Or sometimes I've even had a student years ago who's no longer a student, that person will always say, well, one of my favorite colors is this, but people have whatever color they want. There's no specific favorite color, right? And I did take the trouble or the ostentation to say, don't say right. But at the same time, I'm saying, be aware of that, but you don't have to stop it. There's a way of actually continuing to use right, or the other phrase fillers, you know what I mean, or what I mean is, and there's just a whole, know what I'm saying? There's just so many of them that come in, and you can tell when somebody's using that, is they'll kind of overdo it, and suddenly you'll start to notice that they really are doing a lot of rights or rights. This and this, right? This and this, right? Those actually are not wrong. They're just, what's the word that showed up as a title for a little while, was extra words. Extras there that may need to be there, conditionally, situationally, may need to be there, but you need to understand that in a way that is beyond the relative, logical, reasonable, conclusive understanding that gets somewhere. Materialism, spiritual materialism, psychological materialism, material materialism, just making a lot of money. Not wrong, go do that. But since you're here, you're interested in seeing the true nature of what this is. Good idea. This situation that we so take for granted as a human form, body, speech, and mind. Body, speech, and consciousness, where the thoughts, emotions, memories, situations, judgments, evaluations, prejudice, hope, and fear arise and arise and arise. You might need to consider those. This is what sitting practice of meditation is about. To sit down, stop the movement of the body. Simple. It's not about getting somewhere. A lot of people teach that way. They misunderstand according to the way I see it. Maybe they understand something I don't see. If you are magnetized by that teaching, then go there. Don't listen to me anymore. I have nothing to sell. I have something that I understand that I am presenting. Take a look at it, be a little considerate of it, and then run away. Go do something else. Or stay here and listen to what I'm saying to you. And then turn away from everything, from me, from your kitchen table, from your children, from your wife, from your job, from the society, from all the news media. Sit down, hold still, and watch the movement. Because once this movement stops, the body, once this speech, body, speech, and mind, once the body stops moving, once the speech stops moving, then you begin to actually see more clearly what happens in the mind stream, the occurrence in the mind stream. If you watch the occurrence of the body moving around, you're actually reinforcing the illusion. Again, not wrong. Go ahead. Go ahead and jog. Go ahead and do yoga. Go ahead. But you might want to include 20, 30, 40, 50 minutes, a couple hours a day. Sit still and watch the movement that is happening in the mind stream, so that when you begin to move again, when you do what's commonly called post-meditation, just as a way of talking about it, after you meditate, you see that the movements with the body, the movements with the speech are an illusion. You are going to have to see it in the consciousness first. You can't do it out here. You can't go for walks in the park. If you do that, that's enjoyment. Go do that. Walk in the park all you want. If it helps you settle down, relax, feel better, of course. Not trying to get you away from that. Play Monopoly, go to the library, do all kinds of things, but spend some time training the mind. And how do you do that? You see how untrained the mind is. You have to start somewhere. You don't start with a tame tiger. You start with a wild tiger. Tame that one. The only tame tiger is when it's asleep. Anyway. So I don't need that. I think I can do it from there without notes. So 2 movements. Movement of the body, movement of speech. And the speech one, this is a very slender area that is very tricky. So you might say this, make a statement, and then follow it up with something. So and sometimes this is misunderstood, where I'm saying, don't move, just hold very still all the time. Or it might be, don't talk, don't even have a phrase filler. Stop using that. Sometimes the instruction is misunderstood. That's why I say over and over and over. It's about awareness. There's nothing to fix. If you continue to try to fix things, you're buying into the illusion, and you're trying to fix something in the illusion by working on the illusion, and you just get more illusion. Don't conclude anything. The only way you can do that is to see how much you conclude. You can't just stop concluding. This is ego fortress, a protection of ego by using phrase fillers, by using body language. I've had meditators who sit very still, totally, other than they twiddle their fingers slightly, not a lot. They're not twiddling their thumbs. They're just a slight movement of the fingers. I watched them. All the monks sit in this row right here. There's a reason for that, not because they're superior to everybody else. It's so that I can watch them, because they have asked me to teach them, and I intend to do it. This is not kindergarten where everybody gets babied. That doesn't mean that I don't really baby some people, because that's what it calls for. Some people really need to be in a traditional parental kind of loving, supporting. Yes, I will do that for you if you show up in front of me and I understand what's happening with you. I may give you a lot of that. I may give you that without anything else. You may never get a so-called strong and aggressive teaching. You may not be ready for that. I've had people see that I'm doing that with others and come and say, I want some of that too. Teach me. I'm ready for your teaching. They're not getting it because, oh, they want to be somebody who gets that kind of a teaching. I'm sure you understand what I'm saying. And if you don't, there's time for questions in a few minutes. So it is about observing that. If I were to say to someone who is twiddling their fingers, which I have, and they were to stop doing that, that's a misunderstanding. It's about being aware that you're adding that. It may slow way down by watching it, but it's not about stopping it altogether so you can improve. Improvement is materialism. As my teacher, Chogyam Trungpa Rinpoche, endeavored to point out in his 1972 book, Cutting Through Spiritual Materialism. He did a good job there. You have to cut through that. How that is done is quite obscure in some ways. So it is about being aware of the movement. It's very difficult to be aware of the movement in your body, even though it's thumb twiddling or slightly shifting, or have someone who occasionally shrugs, sitting right here. Not wrong. It's not wrong. If you're aware that you're doing it, then that's seems to be appropriate. Just like as I'm talking, I'm saying, if you're aware, you see, I'm aware that my body is going like this and I'm nodding. Most people are having all kinds of outflows in terms of body movement, voice movement and additions, and things happening in the mind. They're not aware of them. Sometimes it's because they're shutting down and don't want to have that kind of obviousness of ego. I want to get rid of cover up the ego, get rid of the ego, shove it aside, and pretend they're egolessness, or they are egoless. Some people are extremely good at that. You've all met somebody who just doesn't seem to have a strong sense of grasping or rejecting or shutting down. They seem to be kind of without reference point. Well, when they start showing that in that way in front of me, and if they are a student and I've got permission, I might kick them in the shins, figuratively. I never struck anyone. But that's what this is for. This is symbolic. There's no blood on it yet. Have to be a little dramatic, otherwise you fall asleep. So those two, body, speech, and mind. Body, slow down, don't do anything, hold still. The so-called body phrase fillers are like that. They're just little gestures. One that I do all the time. If I'm chattering away with somebody, I might go like this a lot and move my hands a lot. Something my mother did quite a bit. So I quite often say, thanks, Mom, to my mother. And not that her spirit is here manipulating me particularly, but I probably learned that from her somehow, that if you're going to say something, you better be moving your hands. Didn't they used to refer to certain cultural groups as they can't say anything without moving their hands? What was that? Was that those Eskimos?
Italian.
Are you Italian? Well, you would know about it. You don't really do that too much, though. So you've learned not to do that, right?
I grew up with my mom. She was Russian.
Oh, that helped. That slowed it down a little bit. Russian and Italian, that's quite a combination. So are you an acrobat? No, but I guess that's Eskimos. So it's that whole cultural thing, not to go into that very much other than a little bit, that is so hard to track anything there. We have ideas and conceptions, beliefs and opinions, but there's always going to be exceptions. As Suzuki Roshi said once, not always so. You can't find anything that's always the case. If you do, it's probably some kind of fixation or obstruction, which you could be aware of. Just be aware of it. Don't fix anything. See what it is. It's unreal. If you try to fix something, change something, which people are making millions of dollars changing, manipulating, fixing, and selling that to everyone. There's no sales pitch. This is not a sales pitch. I don't care what you do. I really don't. I'm as sincere about that as I can be. That doesn't mean that I wouldn't have emotional things show up with what you do. but fundamentally don't care. If I care about how I feel, I certainly wouldn't come in here and put myself in such an exposed position as chattering away with having no idea what I'm going to say and knowing that you are judging me. How do I know that? You're judging yourself. And what is that fundamentally from the point of view of this old man? Not two different things. So you and me are not two separate beings. It just looks that way, and it's convincing, isn't it? So convincing. You almost take it to court if you had the Buddha there as a prosecuting attorney. So the idea here that I want to emphasize is to see the very thin area that when you're talking, when you're moving, that the movement of the body, the movement of the speech, body, speech, and mind, is very hard to train or track in order to awaken to your true nature, consciousness only. But if you go into the mind, hold very still, body, don't say anything, speech, then you'll notice how the body movements and the speech movements and the mind movements all show up in consciousness. Just like remembering something you did yesterday, you might have if you have a visual quality in your consciousness, you might be able to remember how you moved, what you said, where you walked, what the trees looked like, or how someone looked as you were saying. I don't really agree with you, Jerry. I think that you're confused about what you're saying. Little things we kind of go through, little vignettes, stage plays that we had 3 days ago, and go through that to re-examine and see if we said what they thought we said, or if they said what we thought they were saying about what we were saying. Do you follow that? If you do, you're lying. You can't follow that. Stop lying. Another teaching is via negativa. When I say don't do this, I know you can't stop doing any of these things. But I'm saying if you try to hold your horses and not have passion, aggression, and ignorance, and it becomes very, very clear, because you're actually working with the fundamental chemistry, the fundamental layers, the fundamental plywood of ego. You're working with that as it is. And the upside of it is you're seeing the relative truth as it performs and acts up, and it's so convincing. And the upside of it is you're actually seeing what it is. Downside of it is it hurts. It's disappointing. It's disappointing to see this, but if you look at it and you see that you cannot figure this out, you can't think, I don't care how great a scholar you are, those teachings, the provisional teachings, the Four Noble Truths, the Eightfold Path, the 12 Links on the Chain of Existence, and on, are stair steps leading to the place where you need to jump off. It's not, you don't do anything. You just stopped looking for steps. And what do you look for? You don't look for anything. You see it. You're at the top of it, and the ego is terrified. But consciousness is not worried about anything because it's not a separate thing. It cannot be destroyed. Nothing is threatened in consciousness. There's no beings. This is why if this body-mind complex, these ears that are listening to this voice, when that body-mind comes to an end, which it will, you won't mind. Because you see that who you are can't come to an end. But you have to see it. It's not a belief. It's not an opinion. I don't believe anything. And if I can, I don't disbelieve anything. And I certainly don't avoid anything. All that being said, pack of lies. I'm doing this all the time. What's different about it? There's no one doing that, because now the clarity of what is being seen is so clear that I don't care what happens. It's not that I ignore what's happening in the Gaza Strip as I see it on the news, but I'm not there. But I see very, very intense images that are extremely moving, heartbreaking, of course. People who are suffering, shifting their suffering from themselves on to others and causing them to suffer. Dependently arisen. Everything is dependently arisen. There's not a being anywhere. So coming back to square one, sit down, hold still, body, speech, and mind. Hold still, body. Stop chattering, mind or speech. And then mind. See what this is yourself. Watch what the movement of the mind. Watch the motions and watch the motions in the mind of thoughts and memories. anything that shows up is just to be observed. You don't have to shut it down and get rid of it. But you may watch yourself push on it for 3 weeks, 3 months, 10 years before eventually that starts to crack and come apart. You may need the help of a teacher and you may not. That's up to you. I certainly wouldn't even be here if it weren't for my teachers, especially my especially my, yeah. You can't find who's the most important. They're both my root guru, Trungpa Rinpoche, actually showed me that I could actually do this. I didn't have to kill myself. That's why I'm still here. Hard. Kobanchino Roshi showed me how insane, full of myself, and full of pride that I was. Took me many years to realize what he was pointing at. I've been through this story before. It's embarrassing. It's disappointing because you realize you're not going to be able to see this as a separate being. But consciousness sees it. You get no credit. Consciousness sees it. You get no blame, praise and blame, beyond praise and blame. Please train your mind. You never see me again? Remember this much. Just receive. Anything that shows up, if you can just receive, part of that will be seeing how some areas you can't receive. So there's going to be some things you cannot receive. But if I say just receive and you endeavor to do that, then it becomes more clear the very nature of relative truth or dependent origination as it shows up in the illusion of being a bunch of things all showing up and bouncing off from each other. You need to see that. If you see it, you'll no longer make any decisions. You'll do this, not do that. But you're realizing you don't have any say-so about any of that. There isn't anyone. There's just consciousness. This is possible. You could realize this right now. It's unlikely. This teaching has been around for thousands of years. I'm not talking the same way the Buddha talked. I'm not talking the same way any teacher has talked. They're famous. I'm not. Doesn't matter. Realize it. Realize you can do that. It's possible that you can do that. But it takes a lot of intention and a lot of work, so to speak. Questions if you have them.
Milk bowing. Okay.
No.
When I do that,
When you do what?
the phrase filler that takes up space, what
Like
is
what?
happening?
You're just plugging something up instead of receiving the spaciousness of anything that arising. You're adding some kind of a link to it, so there's not too much space in there. You don't like that gap. Gap is threatening to that part of the consciousness that thinks it is somebody. There's this very subtle, very thin, paper thin, tracing paper thin area of fear. And you don't want that to erupt, so you just have something over it. You have something over it. You know what I'm saying? Well, what I mean is, be very careful about that. You know what I mean? Yes. Be very careful about it. Just be aware of it. You might still keep doing it for a while. You might do it, just see that you do it a little bit less. One time I had one student, no longer a student of mine. They ran away to, I don't know where, somewhere, but used to, in their training, used to have gestures. I'm not going to show you the gesture. You would recognize it. And I pointed this gesture out and I said, this tells me how full of yourself you are. I did this in private. And the person stopped doing it because they were more interested in controlling things than seeing what it was. If they continue to do that, then that might have been embarrassing for them. But if they continue to do that and I saw that they were doing it, then I may have, I don't know, but it didn't happen, may have understood that they're actually working with that, just like I'm going. So the same thing goes on. There's a squirrel going up the tree. Is that your squirrel?
It's a black squirrel.
It's a black squirrel, only in Michigan. Green squirrels, no green squirrels here. More about that if you have it, sir.
Yoga bowing. Yesterday in Crazy Wisdom, we were talking about the
Crazy
Trikaya.
Wisdom book study.
Yeah, Crazy Wisdom book study. We were talking about the Trikaya.
What is the
and
Trikaya?
Dharmakaya, Sambhogakaya, Nirmanakaya.
Yes,
And that initial transparent energy space that arises, we were talking about is the Dharmakaya.
yes.
In this talk, you're talking about layers in our, I guess, energy arising out that takes the form of a phrase filler. Is that a way of looking at that thin layer you're talking about, using that
It's
structure?
Nirmanakaya. Isn't that? It's things that occur and show up in the illusion. The emanation body, the physical form of the Buddha, the physical form of this gong, the actual thing that's arising in consciousness is Nirmanakaya. Sambhogakaya is where things start to come apart and the past and the future disappears. It's closer to the illusion area. And then Dharmakaya, nothing happens. The body of truth, down through the body of bliss, and the body of emanation. Sometimes you can change them around because they aren't separate from each other. This is called Svabhavikakaya. Svabhavika, did I say that right? Yes, Svabhavika. When you see that they're all the same, that way you see the Nirmanakaya, you see the Sambhogakaya, and you see the Dharmakaya, or you understand it that way. You can't see Dharmakaya. More?
Yoga bowing, do those always arise together, whether we see them or not?
Yes, but those are concepts about something. But if you see what it is, even those don't work. They work. They only function to help you get towards an ultimate understanding.
Yoga bowing, one thing you've pointed out to me is my tendency to laugh or at the end of a
Yes.
saying something or responding to somebody.
Yes, you'll say something and you go, ha ha ha. Because your laugh is much more interesting than my laugh. Ha ha ha. Yes, I do that also. A few other people, pardon me, a few other people have a little giggle at the end of a statement. That's also a phrase filler of sorts. And that is a way of filling up the space out of the spontaneity of self-protection. There's so much awareness that is showing up to protect. The consciousness itself has shrunk down into a self that is fearful, shrunk into a self that's hopeful, and has a polarity there. And there's a little tiny warfare going on there. The evidence of that, if you want to use the word evidence, shows up in the form of laughter. What do we call that? A nervous laugh. Some people doesn't take anything away from their intelligence. Some people are brilliant people, but they have a very strong nervous laugh. If you like them, if you love them, if you care about them, you just include their laugh. But if you just met them, it might be a little abrasive to you at first to kind of listen to that. They say something and it makes sense what they're saying. They're connecting with your intelligence, and then they fill it, they kind of ruin it with a laugh. There are quite a few news reporters, if you listen to them, that just ruin what they just said with their phrase fillers because they're worried. Yes.
Yoga bowing. So when we look at that, like just now I said, so when we look at that, do we need to look at, besides the Nirmanakaya, do we need to look at either the falling apart, the Sambhogakaya, or the Dharmakaya?
A little, but as you get closer to the top of the ladder, it just runs out of rungs. You get the relative truth takes you so far. You can walk on the illusion if it comes from an instruction as the Buddha, someone who has seen the totality of the situation, including the relative truth, including the detritus, the confusion, the craziness. That's why it's sometimes in Tibetan tradition, because it's so necessary to include everything, it's referred to as crazy wisdom, because when you get too close to it, it just seems crazy because the relative truth is starting to come apart. And if you're around somebody who teaches that way, not going to be comfortable. But if you're looking for comfort, then there's other ways to do that.
You know, combine one more, with, changes in our breathing.
Yes.
Is that also, can that also be a cover up at the end of, if we give a big sigh or we stand up and, just
Yeah.
express ourselves in that way?
Every movement that you are not aware of is covering things up. This one. That's why sitting practice of meditation is so powerful. This is why creation completion practice is another way of working with consciousness, but you have to have a lot of formless meditation. Sit down, sit symmetrical. You have a little bit of say so, you can sit symmetrical. If you sit like this, then the mind takes that shape, one of stability in the illusion. This is not stability in the illusion. This is stability in Buddha, even teachers. I think Dogen said it. As soon as you should sit down and do this, sit like this is Buddha. This is Nirmanakaya, Sambhogakaya, Dharmakaya. But if you don't realize it, then you'll continue to think something's wrong, your meditation's not any good, or you're not clear enough, or you're not constant judgment of ourselves. This is ego. All of it's ego. You don't have to stop it. You have to be aware of it. You have to be aware that you're full of it. You have to be aware that you're trying to protect yourself. You have to be aware that you want people to like you. You have to be aware that you want credit for everything. And you want to keep from having blame. You have to be aware of that. Don't have to change anything more.
Not now, thank you.
Other questions in here? Natsumi?
Natsumi bowing. As the listener of someone who has an add-on, I find that I get sucked right into it when someone says right, or laughs.
Yes.
I just feel like I need to agree with them. So is that getting sucked in and
No.
agreeing anything?
No, it's all look how you're able to talk about it. You're aware of it. Don't improve. Don't separate yourself from the people who show up full of this stuff. Just be aware of it. And if they happen to be, if you're functioning as a Sangha member, as a member of this community or any spiritual community that has a fundamental understanding and consciousness, then that person individually, situationally, you may just listen to them for weeks, months, years, but you're feeling sucked into it, or it doesn't matter if you're sucked in or if you're irritated by it. Those are not separate. But until you see that in consciousness, you'll continue to search for right and wrong. Excuse me, correcting, not correcting, staying away, you'll look for something. Hiccups. All you have to do is receive. All you have to do is just receive it. And so if you hear it, you'll have a reaction, just receive the reaction. It looks like something's happening out there and then you're reacting. Those are not separate, nor are they the same. That's why it's so challenging. You cannot think your way into this, but you can see it. If you see it, you're liberated. Your voice is liberated. Your throat chakra is completely blasted apart. You no longer have a voice. There's a voice, but it's not yours. It's just reality. It speaks through this person or that person or through you. Reality is speaking through you when you're listening to that person and aware that there's something there, something is fishy about that. You see it's an add-on, as you called it, which is, I think, is an accurate way of describing it. But you also are a little bit puzzled about what you should do about it. I think you're doing it. There isn't anything else to do. Everything's empty of other, including your ideas about what is happening. More if you have it.
Natsumi bowing. I recall you saying something about how if you believe in a separate self, then you won't be able to see what this is, or something along those lines. And I'm wondering if it's similar to a shift in perspective that occurs.
Shift in perspective is ego. You can do that for years and you can write books about it. Well, I just had a shift in perspective and now I'll tell you how to do that. First, there's books all over the place that'll tell you how to do this. The only thing, and even the Buddha Dharma is telling you that. But as we practice, as we study, as we look at things like the Trikaya, we get a deeper, more clear understanding of what those very relative stair steps are pointing to. More if you have it.
Not see me bowing. Is there a perspective in consciousness only?
Doesn't look like it. More. Good question. Yes.
Shui Wu bowing. How is improvement spiritual materialism?
It's only spiritual materialism if you're trying to do it. If it's an agenda, a goal, and you're actually crowding out or filling up, however you want to say it, the awareness that it receives for some kind of structure or strategy or ploy to get things to look better to you. If you're not doing that, then you may improve. I have improvement over here. I would say I'm less concerned. It just occurred. It doesn't, it's not even an occurrence. I'm less concerned with what happens, but that's not something I did. It's like I watched how concerned I was for everything. I was extremely self-conscious when I was very young, when I was a child, until I met Rinpoche. And even then the self-consciousness continued. But then I understood that I needed to watch that, not try to stop being self-conscious. It was painful. It was especially painful when I was in high school. We all know what it's like to be in high school and be self-conscious. Some of you probably didn't have so much of a problem there. I did. I'm extremely embarrassed about stepping out at all because I did not want to be criticized. Very painful. I was in fourth grade once, and just a little anecdote there, I'll give you an example of that. And someone was talking about their grandmother, and I don't know exact ages, but she says, well, my great grandmother lived to be 102 or something like that. And so I thought, well, that got a good response. Maybe I'll try that. So I said, my grandmother lived to be 120. Everyone turned around and kind of scolding look, no, you're lying, and something. It was so embarrassing to me. I thought, well, there's one experiment. I'm not going to do it again. It's very embarrassing, but that shows you the kind of outrageous mind stream that happens over here. Further questions, if there are any.
On bowing, what's the difference between the production, like a phrase filler, and something like an artistic production, like when we're sitting down to actually make something?
It's very similar. It has a similarity to it. If the production is about trying to get results, if there's a lot of goal orientation happening there. So the person that arises here or here or here or anywhere is already, you can't, if you're only 5'2", it might be difficult to play basketball. That's what you're born with. So the different kinds of karma, prarabdha karma, sanchita karma. You can look those up if you want to. I don't want to go into that, but there's the karma that you come into this lifetime with, and then there's your action within that karma to create more karma. So you're sitting down to create something. There's nothing particularly creating any kind of further issues for your ego or for your passion, aggression, and ignorance by like this is a kotsu that you made. I'm very happy with it. I've complimented you on it at least half a dozen times. I love it. I like the shape. I like the curvature of it. I'm very, very visual. So I'm very appreciative of things that are handcrafted, especially like this was. And the gold leaf you did on it was beautiful. So then what happens to you when I compliment you? What happens in your mind stream? That's what's important to see. Not whether you do wonderful things or not. We all know that you do that. So did I get close to what you're looking for there? So continue to do it. Be aware of the self-centeredness, and be aware that you're doing it. Just like if I'm sitting here and I'm noticing something comes up in my mind about something somebody said, I have some pride that comes up. Oh, that sounds pretty good. I think I'm doing a good job there. But it has no longevity at all. It comes up, it shows, and I don't care how I feel. So therefore, if I feel pride come up, I have to say this I don't give a shit. I don't care how I look, and you guys do care how you look. You're always concerned with appearance. If not, take exception to it, and we'll see what we can do there. I'd be happy to come into your shoe department and see what sizes are in there. You follow me a little bit with that? You follow me with that? What I'm saying? What am I saying? Paraphrase what I just said. Are you going to paraphrase it? No, that would go. Go ahead, Robert. I'll leave Erlam alone.
It's something that just is showing up while you're talking, be with your vulnerabilities.
Yes.
How can we be with our vulnerabilities and not convert them into our own fears?
Hey,
Seems very difficult.
very good question, Robert. And I'm so incredibly biased here. I can't help it because I've just been working on this for over half a century. I think without sitting still and being very aware of anything that continues, hold still. If you can, stop chattering. Don't say anything. Don't move at all. Then you notice what you don't have a say-so about. Your thumb may keep moving. Your thoughts may keep arising. You probably won't speak, but to be aware of that, then when your post-meditation, your everyday situation, your awareness, because you've been training your mind, it's like a kind of invisible muscle. It's not really a muscle. It's just working in a level of consciousness where the relative truth doesn't have any muscles. It doesn't need any. You're actually returning to your true nature, ultimate truth. You come out of, as a person, come out of ultimate truth, out of the Dharmakaya, down through the Sambhogakaya, into the Nirmanakaya. Here you are, you're born. Then you went through an embryo stage, you were born, you have a mom and a dad, you have a society, you have rights, wrong, you have ethics, you have laws, rules, you have stoplights, you better stop. This structure is very, very, what do you want to, what would I say? Not rewarding, punishing. That's the one. If you do it wrong, you're going to get a ticket. So coming back to your question, I think it's a very good question. How do we do that? I don't know. I'm not saying it can't, but it's less likely if you continue to try to fiddle around with the feelings and get them to be different, or stop some and start others. And if you keep shoving it around, you're playing around with an illusion in such a way that you might as well go and just study magic or something to try to, because it's just an illusion you're manipulating to get things to appear different than they are. So you're already a meditator, and you're being a counselor and therapist and so on. So you work with this thing day in and day out. So I would say my basic feedback to everybody here, whether it's you or anyone else, is sit a lot, spend a lot of time, schedule yourself. We set the whole month of February where everyone here that lives here, they're not made to do it. People are in this monastery because they want support, and they'll get it here. We're going to set 8 hours a day for the whole month of February. Is that 28 days or 29 days this year?
28.
Huh?
28.
Oh, it's a light one. Not that heavy 29-day one. So you can come. If you come in here, you won't see everybody here all day long, but there will always be somebody in here, either the Doan or other people sitting. Just very simple shikantaza. Sit down, hold still, train your mind to see clearly. It takes a lot of work to do this. You cannot think your way into it. I don't care how brilliant you are. Is that an opinion? Is that an opinion, a judgment, an evaluation? Yep, it is. See how excited I am about it? And yet, people do what they need to do. People would listen to me and think, there are people that come on and listen to this Dharma talk for, 3 minutes or something like that, 4 minutes, 8 minutes, and just shut it right off. We have a way of keeping track of that on YouTube. You can tell who listens and who doesn't. So this is not for everyone. But if you're still here, probably something for you here to hear. Please train your mind. Don't get your identity from me, from Buddhism, from your mom, your dad, your society, from any rules or any laws. Get it from right here, your consciousness. Realize your true nature by looking at the confusion and all the crap that comes and goes in the mind, and realize it's not real. If you see it, that it's not real in the mind, eventually you start seeing this is which is out here. It's unreal. It's there. It's vivid. It's strong. Makes a noise. It's unreal. Has a reality. More, Robert.
Thank you.
Kandrima.
Kandrima bowing. You're doing a lot of movement. Are you aware of all that movement?
Nah.
So even if you're aware of that movement, are you still covering up, filling space with that movement?
Sure.
Unaware or aware?
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You have to go through all the relative stuff first, and then ego is still there, but eventually it just doesn't matter. There isn't anybody. There isn't anybody. I'm looking at the Buddha. You're looking at the Buddha. Not two, not separate. That doesn't mean I'm looking at the Buddha and you're not. I didn't say that. I say you're looking at the Buddha. I'm looking at the Buddha. I'm looking at the awakened consciousness all the time, what's the saying, 24/7? Probably in another country, they don't use weeks and days, do they? What country is that?
The rest of them.
Huh?
The rest of them.
Ceresco? That's the country. That's a little city about 12 miles from here to the left. More? Thank you. So further, any questions online? Naveed, go ahead.
Thank you, Sokuzan. Is being aware of the body is also being self-conscious, Bowing?
There could be a little bit of that if you're putting a lot of emphasis on it being an accomplishment. So I even recommend to people just don't forget gravity. So I'm saying the idea is don't maintain some kind of awareness. Like if I maintain make sure that I, not doing any cover-ups, I have to make sure I'm aware of my hands. Yeah, what it seems to be, to use a relative way of talking about it, it's like you flash on it. You flash on the movement of your hands. You flash on gravity. It's just that you just realize so many things going on. There's no way you can be aware. You can be conscious of everything. Conscious is not a point of reference. It just shows up that way in awareness, or also shows up as in ignorance. But that might take some time. So I'm not sure. I have a feeling there's an area you might have a further question about body awareness. Is there something you're thinking about?
Maybe Bowing. Is that what you're calling not to fixate on anything? When
Yes.
you say just flash.
Yes. So, but it's also not an accomplishment of not fixating.
Yes.
So if you leave that you're so good at this that you're just not getting fixated on anything, then this creates a person who thinks they've understood relatively the teachings of like Nagarjuna is 2,000 years ago. Nagarjuna said, not this, not that, not both, not neither. He's talking about ultimate reality. It's not this, it's not that, it's not both, and it's not neither. It's just a simple way of using concepts to move around in such a way that you can't see what this is. But someone who has a powerful intellect might be able to use this because they have so much clarity about each little chip there. Each little chip, it might be so clear, and it might be able to elaborate out from each one of them. Not this, elaborate, not that, elaborate, not both, not neither. They might be able to create a whole pantheon of otherness that makes them feel like they understand absolute reality in a relative sense. There's books everywhere. I could list them. I've read them. Not all of them, of course, because who's that one guy that reads everything?
Morgan Freeman.
Tokugawa.
Yeah, Okinawa reads everything. So, well, what I'm saying is that there's all kinds of elaborations. I'll just say there's some people who are really elaborate and are very convincing. And I'm not saying that Ken Wilber isn't enlightened. Maybe he is. I've never met him. He has a very powerful intellect. He's way smarter than I am. And he functions as a Dharma teacher for a lot of people. A person who was a student of mine at one point went and studied with Ken Wilber for a while and then doesn't anymore. I've not really discussed it with them. They can do what they want. So I'm just saying it's a trap to get caught in the elaboration in such a way that the structure and the concepts, the four skandha, basically form, feeling, perception, concept, consciousness, the four skandha can tie you right up in an understanding that has its the determinator that you're really understanding is you're able to talk about it in a way that other people don't understand. So you're able to say something about something in a conceptual way, and people are kind of amazed by that because they've studied that and they've studied the Trikaya, and you're able to talk about the Dharmakaya, the Sambhogakaya, the Nirmanakaya, and what's the other one? If you see that those are all not separate from each other, they're not one, they're not separate from each other. It's a
Long word that I don't remember.
Svabhavikakaya, is that right? You don't know either.
Not 100% sure. Syllable.
It's Svabhavikakaya. So, Svabhava means being. Sanskrit, I think. But see, I'm getting kind of scholarly right here. I need a credential. So I'm getting one. How am I doing? Good. Yes.
Kandrima bowing, you're saying that the movements in body and speech while we're talking show us our ego.
It shows us that there's you might still talk, you might still express yourself, your hands might still move. So it's just that kind of a movement, if it's hidden or if it's ignored, then it creates I use the word fortress of ego. It creates a barrier between seeing there's a part of consciousness always finds whatever form it needs. One of them it may need, if there's a body-mind complex operating here that is fearful or has been fearful for hundreds of years because we're human beings that are threatened, then when that starts to happen in our culture or in our family at the kitchen table, that still continues to show up. That primitive kind of protection mind shows up. Go ahead.
Kandrima bowing. So then when we're seeing both ego movement, we're filling up space and we're buying into the illusion.
Yes.
What is the difference? Is there any difference, I guess, between filling up space and seeing the illusion? Seeing that the movement as an illusion, or buying into the illusion, I guess, more than seeing the illusion.
Once you see it, because of the fundamental statement about this, nothing is separate. Not this, not that, not both, not either, according to Nagarjuna. So it's a way of using the relative situation to see that fundamentally. So consciousness, which is not a separate thing, consciousness is not separate from everything. But you may have to look at the separations for a long time, maybe 50 years, maybe 100 years, maybe 20 lifetimes, just a way of talking about a relative situation that is fundamentally what? Unreal. There are no lifetimes, there's no space, there's no time, there's just consciousness. It's just showing up as this, a carnival of errors, bumping into this, bumping into that, having a temporary 20, 30, 40, 50 or more years as a person, as a woman, as a man, as a duck, as all the birds we were watching this morning, they're all totally happy being birds. Unless a red-shouldered hawk comes along, and then they might not be so happy about being a bird.
Kandrima bowing, what is the difference between the awareness of someone who sees the ego as an illusion and the awareness of someone who still buys into the ego?
To use a relative way of saying it, the ego, buying into the ego, or the right and wrong, up and down, that's what you're talking about, relative truth, is there's the illusion of somebody, and that creates the illusion of other things. It's called duality. And What was the other one you okay?
Conjure I'm just looking at the difference in awareness of someone who believes in the
Yes.
ego and
The-
doesn't believe in.
Okay, I have to say it relatively. The person who sees the truth doesn't see anything. Because anything they see is unreal, so they don't see anything. What they see is unreal. It's an illusion. They're not convinced. They don't join it. They're not swindled by it. They're not concerned what happens. But if they're functioning in this path, the path of the Mahayana, the path of the Buddha's Dharma, they received a vow, whether informally or formally, to be with all things, save all beings, put others before themselves. Then they see the truth of suffering. That world of suffering, incredibly painful situation all over, of people torturing each other, at war with each other. They don't ignore that. They see it's unreal, but the people that are in there, they believe those nerve endings. It's not that the person who is an enlightened being, which I think what you're talking about there, it's not that they don't have nerve endings too, but it's a temporary situation. Happen to be in human form for a while, and they go ahead.
Conjure So when there's movement by someone who sees through the illusion, and movement by someone who doesn't see that.
You're talking about hand movement,
Yes,
okay?
like a hand movement in a conversation.
Yeah,
or
not separate.
in a Dharma talk.
But they're not separate fundamentally. Just like my head now is not separate. What's the question? What does he want to know?
It seems like to draw attention to that is involving us in the illusion, where you're saying that you're seeing that it is an illusion.
You have to look at the illusion without adding to it passion, without rejecting it, aggression, and without ignoring it. Those simply put, you have to just the teaching part of the so-called path quality of it is just receive it. Sit down, hold still, practice receiving your thoughts without accepting, rejecting, or shutting down. Don't believe it, don't just disbelieve it, don't ignore it. And then get up off the cushion and live in your life and don't accept, reject if you can. And that the process of that in awareness, you might have to spend a long time, as Trungpa Rinpoche would say, wearing out the shoe of ego. You just have to keep doing it and doing it and doing it until you.
Conjure So then you're just drawing our attention to subtle layers of the illusion that we may not be aware of, so that we can continue to wear out ego.
Continue to just continue to look at it. You do not have to improve. Don't have to do anything. But if you're interested in this kind of an understanding, the spiritual path is commonly called, then train your mind. Spend a lot of time on a cushion, holding still, look at a wall or a refrigerator or a closet door, look at an altar, look at the carpeting. If the stillness is important, don't maintain it. Return to it. And be aware of when you move or shift or change your body posture. And when you do that, changing the body posture, do it intentionally. Just deliberately move or stretch or whatever, and then return to stillness. Don't maintain the stillness. Just be still. And then if you need to move, move. Just be aware. Over time, watching that movement without accepting, rejecting, or shutting down, the judgment just starts to fall apart if you don't fuel it. Eventually you see the truth. But there's no guarantee, because we don't know what kind of karma you're dealing with or what kind I'm dealing with, what kind anyone's dealing with. More?
Conjure And so when you're drawing attention to us looking at the illusion more closely, it's not about solidifying the illusion. It seems like there's a risk for us to be solidifying the illusion.
Yes. But fundamentally, there's no risk to anything, but the relative area, there's a risk that if you can practice, then if suddenly something gets a hold of you, it can take you into a complete circularity that looks like a straight line, sometimes called another lifetime, sometimes called another lifetime while this living form is still here. You decided that you're not going to do this, you're going to do that. Because it's just too dangerous, it's too scary. It can be devastating to someone to practice the spiritual path. Very, very painful. As you just said in your talk you gave recently, how painful it is for you.
Khandruma bowing, you've also been teaching us that it's not about understanding, it's about seeing. And so
Yeah.
what you're basically saying is that it's all about strengthening the awareness, not really understanding what you're saying.
You need to, yes, we have book study, we have it several times a week. You need to study these teachings, as I've done extensively over the last half a century. Need to study them so you can eventually see that when these teachings, not about understanding anything, although you may go through a couple of decades of understanding, trying to understand and failing, understanding, then understanding a little bit, and then getting a little bit further, and then realize you don't understand that. And then some of the teaching, it took me decades and decades, way after Trungpa Rinpoche has passed away, to see that some of his teaching is a deliberate bait and switch. He's deliberately doing this so that you lose your balance, not trying to get you to understand. Powerful teacher. As I've said, I wouldn't be here if it weren't for that teacher and that kind of a teaching. Crazy wisdom form of the Buddhas of the three times. It shows up in that kind of distraction that comes and you think you're getting the truth because the ego wants the truth, and suddenly the rug is pulled out from under you. Deliberately, not deliberately because the person wants to hurt you, torture you, or anything, because they want to, that teaching person wants to fundamentally help you because they think you're sincere about wanting the truth, and they're looking at it. What are they seeing? Nothing. They aren't seeing anything because everything is consciousness only. Big disappointment. But until you see that you can't figure this out, you're going to continue to have hope and continue to think you're going to get somewhere. As Trungpa Rinpoche said, and I coming pretty close to quoting him, the path is one disappointment after another until the final disappointment, which is awakening itself. Awakening is nothing has happened. All of your work, all of your many, many hours, years and years of sitting meditation have not gotten you anywhere because there isn't anyone. So it's very, very disappointing. More? Naveed, did you have a further question? I felt like I cut you off a little bit.
Navi bowing. Actually, I had one, but I don't remember it right now.
Well, we have that in
So-
common.
I will ask you if I remember.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Mahesh.
Mahesh bowing. Even though we don't own what comes out of us, is it a good practice to try to fix it to cause less harm in the world? Bowing.
Yes, yes. Yes, it's about being aware of it. When I say don't fix it, I know you can't help it, but if I say that and you're aware of that, then when you do go to stop something, repair something, change something, it's flooded with awareness, not happening in a tight box of paranoia about demanding results and looking for somebody you can blame if it doesn't work. No, you're responsible for what you're doing. You realize that you may go out and carry a protest sign. You might join a group of people who are very confused, but their basic understanding seems to have some sanity happening there. Might be supportive of them. But you also are not looking for results. The way I teach is intend to be helpful. Don't look for results. You look for results, you're tied up into the same the same vice grip that the rest of the world is dealing with. It causes so much pain and suffering and warfare. So yes, you can do some repair work. Just keep it to a minimum. And the way you keep it to a minimum is just intend to be helpful, but then look out to see if some kind of a strategy to get results out of it. This doesn't mean that you don't paint your garage and try to get results out of getting the garage. Very relative situations are just that. They're very practical and very relative, and they have a lot of relative proof there. But as soon as you start to get into consciousness areas or into psychology or philosophy or all of those structures, then the whole dependability starts to come apart, and what takes over is what? Opinion, ideas, judgments, evaluations. Further, Mahesh? Yeah, further question.
Mahesh bowing. Not on this, but probably a different question is how does trying to be aware, sitting and trying to be aware of what's happening, how does that help us realize that we don't own whatever is happening? Bowing.
So the instruction there is to sit down, hold still, don't talk, and watch what moves in the mind. That's what helps us to see what moves in the mind, see that you cannot change that. You might be able to stop yourself from moving. You might be able to stop talking, but you can't stop thinking or evaluating or concluding. You have to watch that for many, many years so that you can fundamentally realize. And it seems to be necessary to have the three jewels, the teaching person, the teaching that's being taught. Everything is dependently arisen. Nothing comes from its own side as an individual self. The whole world is suffering. The cause is wanting something else. The goal is cessation. And the path is Shila Samadhi and Prajna, traditionally spoken. But I'm just saying, sit down, hold still, and watch the confusion without fixing it. That's difficult. That's how it helps you. You actually are presented with, over time, takes a while, you're presented with the absolute impossibility of fixing something that is, and why? You see, because it's not real. You actually begin to see, instead of, it isn't like you give up on fixing things. No, you might still continue, but you see that doesn't, and this is where it starts to show up over time. No promises here, but you don't care what happens. Kind of an amazing realization that you can have intense negative feelings and not be concerned about them. Intense, positive, loving, cherishing feelings and not be concerned about them. No self, no other. No self in the skandhas, form, feeling, perception, concept, and consciousness, and no self out there, nothing out there. Isn't anything out there. That's an illusion. Don't believe anything I say, but consider it.
Mahesh Bhavin. So when we are trying to be aware and of what is happening, are we cultivating this muscle of letting go of control? Is that how we see through it, the illusion? Bhavin.
So fundamentally, we can't control, but the illusion of control, if I understand your inquiry, is we're always trying to do this, trying to stop that, trying to feel better, trying to be more polite, or all the kinds of controls that are happening. And it's about being aware that that's happening rather than trying to modify it or change it or be someone who doesn't control anything. It's always about awareness, how that shows up for you, how that shows up for Terry or Yudao or anyone else is going to be different because of the causes and conditions that brought you into this world. And there's still that particular kind of karma, prabdha karma. And so that kind of karma is still working. You can't meditate away the shape of your ears or your particular disposition to be forgetful or to have a really powerful intellect. So this is why it's so important to be aware, and it's so important to receive and to have the intention of seeing the truth yourself. Nothing to believe. You don't mean to believe in Buddhism. Yudao, do you have a question?
You Bowing, this is from what you were talking about way back, but if you are really restless on the cushion, you say sit down, hold still and watch what moves. But if you can't hold still and all you're doing is trying to hold still, is there a time when you might just get up and do something else?
Yes. But there's also a time when you might be restless. You might be sitting there for an hour or whatever it may be and be very restless and shifting this way and that way, but you might intentionally sit still for 30 seconds. Time is not real, but the intention has a kind of reality that transcends this world and the other, to say relative truth and ultimate truth. The intention. You as a living being who is trapped in the illusion of relative truth can have the intention to see what is true. And you can do that by holding still for 30 seconds. If you do, it will show up. You won't recognize it. If you recognize it, it's relative truth. And lately, because of especially people that have been sitting for 20 or 30 years, are having more and more trouble just sitting at all because you know what that is, I'm sure you know, people are seeing they're not getting anywhere. And so anytime you sit down, it feels useless. Hard to keep sitting. As long as you think something great is going to happen, you can meditate. I know I spent many, many hours in retreat meditating, and the only reason I could stay there is I thought I would improve or get better, or I'd be more aware. Didn't happen. became harder and harder to sit. I'm pretty stubborn, so I kept sitting anyway. But sometimes the way I teach, especially maybe not to someone who started last week or 3 years ago, I might not relate to them, but someone who's been sitting for 15, 20, 30 years and they're really having a lot of difficulty, I would say just sit, just strengthen the intention, not the length of time. Sit down, hold still, strike a gong. I know you can't hear that, right? Can't hear that. This is making a sound. Trust me. And then at the end, come back and hear that. I didn't hit it. Well, I want to include y'all. So what happens here and what happens there, we think of 30 seconds, but that's unreal. There is no 30 seconds. That's an eternity. You can do this. Don't believe me, but consider what I'm saying here. You now go ahead.
You're bowing. It seems that sometimes a movement or something that I haven't been aware of, once I become aware of that, it stops appearing or mostly stops appearing. Do things improve on their own?
Yes. Yeah, that'd be a way of addressing relative or a way of talking about dependent origination, things that come and go and they seem to just happen. Sometimes this in this tradition, but also in other traditions, when we notice that things just improve, then we call it grace. I didn't do anything; it just suddenly, like some people that are great musicians or great painters or great poets or something, they just say, I'm not really doing this. It just comes out of me somehow, it comes through me somehow. This is someone who, they may not be a realized being, they might not be a living Buddha, but they may be in their particular craft or art or expression. They may have a realization that I don't really do this. There's no person here. That is their simple relative way, temporarily, of experiencing no self. That doesn't mean that all the other karma that is just outside the door isn't waiting for them when the consciousness returns through its true nature. It may have a lot of baggage waiting for them in the Sambhogakaya, waiting to return back here again to being another living being. How do I know this? I don't know anything. I'm looking at it. I don't have any relative knowledge. I have a lot of it, but it's helpful sometimes. It doesn't give me I don't have a credential here. The only credential I have is if you give me a credential by being a student. But as soon as you're gone, I'm gone. Those are not separate from each other.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there a final question? Yes.
Milk bowing. A question from YouTube from Ath in the UK. Actually, two questions. Is it accurate to say that not only consciousness is real, it has to be real? Thank you kindly. Bowing.
No, nothing is real. Consciousness is a relative term and a word that we use because otherwise you can't teach unless you use relative language. But there are no words for it. So even the word consciousness is just a relative statement about something that has no words. You can't have words for this. Next question.
Milk bowing. Ath also says, I have a close family relative waiting for a radical major surgery in the next couple of days. Any advice on how would facing the wall would or could help in this situation?
Yes, pray for them. Pray for them. Put it all about them. Sit down, sit 10 or 20 minutes with formless meditation, do nothing, and then go in to write it down ahead of time. Put their name down, write it up, bring their whole life right into your consciousness. Pray for them. Pray for their welfare, pray for their happiness, pray for their fearlessness. I mean, I don't know anything about them, but I know enough to give you that kind of feedback. And don't look for results. The prayer is what's important. The intention to save all beings, to put others before yourself. This is just about as much about you, Ath, as it is about the person that's going through the surgery. They're not separate from them. You have to realize that. If you don't realize it, you'll look for results, and you'll be concerned about what if they have difficulty or have something goes awry. So don't be concerned about it. Whatever happens, it needs to happen. Participate in it. See that you're not separate from it by just offering prayers, or I don't know, I don't know you well enough to know what kind of, if you even consider yourself a Buddhist for that matter, but there are a lot of prayers in Buddhism. There are mantras, there are chants. You can look those up or something if you feel supported by that, or you can just use your own words. Yeah. May all beings be happy and at their ease, including whatever her name is or his name. Yes.
For long bowing. If we have a practice that's not meditation, I'm thinking like either Tai Chi or even playing guitar, and we return to it, and we're not trying to get anywhere, we're just practicing.
Yes.
Is it a spiritual practice?
If you're not making a quit here and come to conclusions about all kinds of things, but the way it looks to me, the most important thing you can do is hold still and observe. Now, you may play guitar. Several people play guitar. It's not separate from a spiritual practice, but also eating spaghetti is not separate from it. Anything you do is the path, but it isn't a path because you say it is, or I say it is, or anybody thinks it is. It's just living in this particular illusion without any more warfare. Don't accept, don't reject, don't look away. And the expression will just start to come out of you. I'm going to start singing opera next week. Well, maybe not next week. I think I may need some training.
Start now.
Huh?
Start now.
Whoa!
More from your diaphragm. More from your diaphragm.
More training, please.
Yeah.
Go ahead. More. No. That's pretty good.
Froggy.
How did you come up here? Did you say froggy?
Yeah, I felt a little froggy.
You should be able to do anything. I mean, doesn't matter whether it sounds good. It's the expression. It's seeing, look right directly at the wall, see what this is. And then anything you do will come out of dependent origination without a self. There's no guarantee. There will be no proof. There's no evidence. If you need evidence, if I needed evidence, I couldn't do this. Couldn't do. Then you may say, well, that's pretty obvious.
Terry Bowing.
Yes, Terry.
Question about illusion. So when you say if I'm understanding, you're saying the body, seeing the body move is illusion. Is the illusion the body moving, or saying that your body's moving? Bowing.
Both. There isn't anything that you can see, name, think about, remember, reflect. It isn't anything that isn't illusory, that you can't find the real. And why can't you find the real? Because your true identity is the real. But everything coming out of it, including your ears, nose, tongue, body, mind, expression, lifetime, whether you're building furniture or whether you're producing children, or you're as my father in 1945 was shot off the back of the tank when he was 26 years old. That's an illusion. It's an illusion. It's not real. It happened in the illusion. So whatever you do and whatever you think about it or comment, everything it's just a big stack of illusions. If you see what it is, then you won't be particularly confused by anything. You'll no longer make any mistakes. You'll no longer do anything right.
Terry Bowing.
Yes.
What part of your father being shot off a tank is not an illusion? Bowing.
All of it. Every single bit, including his fear of going to war when he was 24. When I was 3 years old. It's unreal. This is unreal. You're unreal. This is unreal. But don't believe me. You don't have to conclude anything. You find out for yourself. You find out. Why am I sitting up here and you're all listening to me? I'm telling you that everything is unreal. that would be enough to just say, well, what the hell we listen to this guy? He didn't believe in anything. But I also don't disbelieve in anything, and I'm certainly not about to ignore anything. Consciousness only. Consciousness only.
Very bowing. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Jishin, you get to be the last questioner because we're out of time.
Jishin bowing. Google says that Sambhogakaya is an enjoyment body.
Who's this Google guy?
Google guy.
Who is that? Is that a Dharma teacher?
He knows everything.
Well, let's hear from him then.
So enjoyment body, when we sing the opera because we feel like doing it, is it an expression of Sambhogakaya?
Always. Even though Sambhogakaya can't express, it has to show up in Nirmanakaya. It can't really express. It's a more indefinite or more vaporized form of the illusion. It's like incense smoke. There's a big difference between forest fire and incense smoke, but they're not different.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. We can bring this
We will dedicate the
to a
merit.
close. I think we should dedicate the merit first, since Milka has a good memory.